Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are in the shop, but we'll be headed outside to shortly work on the ZR2. Now, we are running into rain today, on and off, so some of this video might be kind of choppy just because of that, so just letting you guys know. But anyway, what we're working on today is actually the sound system for the interior of the truck. If you guys want to check out that Kicker tailgate video, check that video link up above. So speaking of Kicker, today's system is actually by Kicker as well. And I guess GM teamed up with them to do all of the audio accessories for the new truck platform, the 2019 and newer Silverado, as well as the Sierra. So let's go ahead and kind of show you what we got. So what we got here is GM speaker part number 194-17164. This is the auxiliary subwoofer that goes under the rear seat. And I also picked up a Kicker remote bass control that you plug into the side of the amp. Now guys, this part is critical. If you guys do not install this, you will not get the full functionality of your speaker system. And the part number on this is basically CXARC. I'll include the full part number down below. But yeah, so I had bought this separate on Amazon, and I bought the speaker kit secondhand. Now this is a GM accessory that I think you could have bought and had installed in your truck before you picked it up, but obviously they sell it as an accessory for the aftermarket to buy and install. And I've actually been looking for one of these for over a month. I couldn't find one. I finally tried to buy one on eBay, but the guy canceled the sale. I'm not sure why. Finally, this one I found on Facebook Marketplace over in Tennessee. Sent the guy DM, and apparently he had it listed for a few weeks. We made a price, and he agreed to ship it here to North Carolina. So this is secondhand. If you guys do try to buy this part number from GM right now, it is the middle of October. The dates I'm seeing are end of November, early December. So I think this video will go up before then, so I'm not really sure. I think today's October the 11th. But yeah, so I saw end of November for this to even be available. So, you know, this is brand new in box, not installed, because I think the guy was going to put it in his truck, but he ended up selling it. So alright, so like I said, it is new in box. I don't even think it's been out, but here's your main wire harness. This is actually going to have to go through the firewall, and this will get connected to the fuse panel that's above the battery cable. The rest of this should be just empty. Yeah, just an empty box. And I think basically the rest of it is just going to be the speakers, some of your accessories that you're going to need. So here's a set of instructions and a sticker pack. It's kind of interesting. The wiring we already showed you. And yeah, so this is pretty much it. Let me try to get this out. All right, this is heavy. And so yeah, here is the subwoofer box. Viewing it from the bottom, this is actually upside down. But did want to show you, here's the amp that we will be working with. This is where that wiring harness goes. And then down here, there's a little port. That's where that accessory port's going to go for that auxiliary controller. So plug that in. So yeah, here's what it looks like. Will be under the seat. And it is kind of stealth. You don't really know what's there because it completely hides the fact that there's an amp and a big speaker right here. And this does give you a little bit of a cubby to put all your stuff, because the seat, the wall goes like right here. So you'll be able to throw some stuff under the seat, and it gives you a little bit of storage. Before we do get started, I got two things to go over. One, they do not give you any printed instructions. You unfortunately have to download that yourself. I believe there's a QR code on that yellow piece of paper that we showed you earlier. That will give you a link to the install guide. I'll probably just download it and print it out. Again, I don't know why people do that. It's like 4 pieces of paper, it's 30 cents. And the second thing is, guys, I already have a truck that has the Bose speakers in it, the Bose surround sound. If you guys do not have that, there actually is a different kit that requires you to buy a secondary amp. And that install is a lot harder. You actually have to take the rear seat out, or the top half of the rear seat out, and mount that extra amp on the back firewall between the seat and going into the bed of the pickup truck. So just be aware, there are 2 different kits. The kit ending in 164 is specifically for the ZR2s, because like I said, we've already got that Bose surround sound. And actually, it's not just the ZR2s, it's a whole bunch of different trucks. But, you know, if you guys have a ZR2 and you're watching this video, you only need the kit with the 164. The other kit, oh, and this was like 600 bucks, give or take, from GM. The other kit with the secondary amp is like $1,200. So you do not want the $1,200 speaker kit get the cheaper kit because this is what you need for the ZR2 specifically. We're kind of approaching this from the wrong side, but I actually do need to take my factory wall kit out. I'm gonna have to figure out how this comes out. I think it just snaps in, and yeah, actually I can see it. It's underneath the floor jack, so got to take that out because unfortunately the speaker and this will collide. Now I have seen one guy actually take this kit. I want to say he like cut it in half and actually used this passenger side half and used the driver's side half of the speaker setup. So kind of do plan on doing something like that, but that'll probably be for a future video. Here's the driver's side, and kind of like I said, we're gonna have to get this tray out first. Basically, we're gonna take out the floor jack as well as the handle for that. Once that comes out, I think this should come out, because if you guys can see, it's all one carpeted piece, so it goes up and under, so that should pop out. All right, so I got the floor jack as well as the handle out. Guys, there are some 10mm bolts that are kind of tightened down here, and you guys can see I actually had to remove 2 of them over on the passenger side. Over here on the driver, there's this one that's right here. Get these out and we should be able to lift this up and out of the way. So all right, so like I was saying, there is that 10mm bolt. I guess it just sucks them down into the factory carpet. Pull up all the 10mm bolts over there. There's 2 of them, like I said, and that allows you to get your rear underseat storage out of the way. So let me go put this in the garage and we can go get the speaker. All right, so here is the rear package tray as well as the subwoofer next to each other. I can see exactly what the guy did. The guy just took probably a utility knife, because honestly, guys, there's nothing to this. It's just a it's just carpet with maybe a little bit of a plastic backing to it. The guy probably just took a utility knife, cut it, you know, probably cut it big and then cut it small to where he needed it. So it looks like I can basically kind of rescue, oh, just a little less than half of this. So probably near where that line is, probably can reuse about half of this and still have some space that's under the seat. Obviously, we're going to lose a little bit with the subwoofer, but that's okay. I'm not using it for anything huge. As you guys know, I did buy that kicker accessory knob, and I just want to show you a little bit better shot. So that actually is this port right here. You know, to take full advantage of the capacity of the amp and the subwoofer, you do want to buy this base level adjustment knob from Kicker. And I wanted to see if I need to plug that in now versus later, because when you flip this upside down, trying to get access to that is going to be a total pain in the butt. So, and same thing with this harness right here. I know we're going out of order a little bit, but like I said, we're dealing with weather, and if I can just get the subwoofer mounted and all the wiring plugged in, would be great. So, all right, here are all 3 wire harnesses opened up, and this is going to be the main one that we're going to have to run through the cabin. Smaller one to me looks like this is going to be the one that we're going to run through the firewall and connect to the battery. I believe that I-ring, I believe that's going to be a ground. And then this third harness, it's your basic headphone jack on both ends. So, and actually, guys, I thought this controller was a lot bigger. The pictures make it look huge, but and the other end of it is just, again, another stereo head jack. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, so basically this headphone jack will plug into the back of the amp. Assuming this white connector will go here, and this harness looks like it had a, yeah, here you go. And this plug will go right here. So, you know, got kind of a lot of connections, but like I said, I'm gonna kind of do a dry mock-up before we go over to the truck. So we got the main subwoofer harness. This basically wires off. So you got one going to the sub, one going to the amp, and then it's the shared wire that goes up toward the front of the car over on the passenger side. Obviously, we're gonna have to loop this through the car. You've got this split harness here. I need to find out what that plugs into, but it's a gray and green wire. There's also a secondary gray and green wire. Then over the front there's your ground, and then you've got your 3 red wires. That is actually going to plug into this sub harness. Like I said, this is what's going to get ran through the firewall and into the battery pack. So after reading the instructions, I believe the secondary power harness with the brown and green wire, I believe this is going to be to the secondary amp that we don't have to install. If you guys have the non-Bose trucks, you know I have to install that secondary amp. I believe that this is what that is for. So we don't have to do that. I think we just leave it bare. And the second one, the one up front, that is actually where we're going to splice into the Bose wiring up front near the kick panels. All right, guys, you know how I said I saw that there was an adjustment on the amp itself? You see this little rubber panel? Peel that out, and you guys can actually see there are some adjustment switches on here. Put all of these switches on the bottom to up. So up, up, there you go. And that way, all of your switches, all the gains are turned all the way up. So now that I've made all the adjustments to the up position, we can go ahead and put the rubber seal back on and then screw it back into the case. All right, I have the subwoofer mocked up in place. Obviously, we haven't tightened everything down. There's an 18mm bolt, kind of like I mentioned inside. Just grab a big socket and 1/2-inch wrench. That'll come right out. This does torque to 80 foot-pounds, but I'll be honest, guys, I definitely didn't put 80 foot-pounds trying to break that loose, so that might have to be torqued later. But pretty much what we're going to do next is fish wiring. So what we're going to have to do is fish the wiring for the power side of this over through underneath the seat, up under the passenger side, you know, basically these rails part up under there, and then up into the front kick panel. All right, guys, I have the subwoofer plugged in. I also have the amplifier plugged in over here. You guys can see I ran the wires coming up from amp going right under the carpet, and it is back behind the brackets underneath the carpet. And over here on the middle of the seat, same thing. It's ran back behind the carpet through. I actually had to run it through the seatbelt bolt, and then I fished it back under and underneath here. Now, guys, you do have to pay attention here. There is a metal hump here, and I ran the harness underneath that hump. But if you get that pinched, when you tighten this down, the floor jack, you could potentially smash all the wires. So if you guys would just be careful and run the harness underneath that hump, you guys will be good to go. All right, guys, we got the rear seat attachment tightened back down. We got all the harnesses ran back behind the carpet, like we said, and I also got the spare tire handle. That's all tightened down. I have to emphasize, make sure you guys leave plenty of slack for this subwoofer control right here, because like I said, you don't want that pinched. I made sure, and this wire is loose and you can pull on it, so we should be good there. I've got the jack in place. It's not bolted down all the way. I do have the 10mm nuts on both the front and left of that. Then I also ran the harness, as you guys might be able to see, back below the seat harness, because that's what the instructions call for. And as you guys can also see, I removed the centerpiece. Stick your hand under it, pull up, it'll come up. What we need to do next is actually remove these 7mm bolts. There's one here, there's gonna be one down here, there's one right below here. Take those out. That kind of removes the protector for the wire harness. And what that will allow us to do is run this main power harness along the main channel where the rest of the body harness is running through. So, all right, you can see I put a couple zip ties on this wire. Basically, we're just gonna do it probably every foot or so. We don't need to go too overboard, but basically what we need to do is feed this wire through underneath this tray. Then over here on the passenger seat, same thing. We need to feed that wire through, need to have it come through here. Attach another zip tie here. We're going to take out those 4 bolts for that plastic tray that's underneath again, and again, run the wires up. You also have to remove this trim piece that's next to the seat. Simply just pull up on it. That goes right here. You guys can see where the mounting points go, so pull up on that. That'll pull up. You can see I actually have the whole trim piece here that says ZR2. Kind of comes into the kick panel. That is actually one piece, guys. I tried to take it apart. It is one piece. It's kind of plastic riveted up here. I don't know why they did that. It should have been 2-piece, but it is what it is. So yeah, so pull up from the bottom and then pull back, pull toward you. You get these 2 tabs right here pulled out. You should be good to go. Now here's a ground we're gonna have to use. It's actually in our bundle over here. And then over here, I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna have to do it, but we are gonna have to cut this harness open right here, the main body harness. And I think we're gonna have to go after a yellow and black wire. It's either yellow or yellow and black. It's a twisted wire. We need one of those. All right, guys, we got our Bose wiring wired up. The instructions basically say if you have a Bose equipped car, you're gonna go after the twisted yellow and yellow black wire that's in your car. The twisted single yellow goes to the green harness, and the yellow and black harness goes to the brown harness. And guys, they're simply using these, not a tap a fuse, but these kind of like line splicers. They go in, then the adapter harness plugs right into that. And guys, I did have to cut off a lot of the Tessa tape to get access to this. Unfortunately, the yellow twisted wires were in the dead middle of this harness, so I basically had to cut like 6 inches of the tape off. I do actually have replacement Tessa tape, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this stuff back up and get this stuff ready to install. So yeah, that is the wiring harness adapter for the sound system. All right, you can see we wrapped up that wire harness with some Tessa tape. I did not wrap the auxiliary harness because the rest of it isn't wrapped, so it kind of doesn't make sense. You also see I put the ground on. It's a 10mm bolt right there. Gotta tighten that down. Then you guys will see the power source up here. I'm not really sure where that's gonna end up, but I know we do need to plug that into this at some point. So we are pretty much done on the interior. Now I would wrap all this back up, but like I said, I gotta fish some wires through the firewall. Get that connected and we should almost be done. All right, so getting power to the sub isn't gonna be too terribly difficult. Take the battery cover off, and the first terminal you have is a 13mm bolt. Take that nut off and basically connect your eyelid, the fish eyelid, to that. And then what we're gonna have to do, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but back here, kind of where my finger is pointing, there is a, for lack of a better term, a nipple that we need to cut off. That is a factory provided firewall access point. Cut that off and feed your power wire through. Then what we're gonna do at the end of this, we're actually gonna put the 3-pin connector on here and plug that into the harness that's inside the truck. So, all right guys, kind of hard to see up here, but if you do look, follow that red and black line, you will see the grommet up in the firewall. I'm not sure if that's, I think you guys can see that. I can barely see it on the screen, but yeah, I just kind of had to reach my hand up there and grab it and pull it down. Then once you're on the inside, you're actually gonna wanna pin the connector that they provide you. And for this, pretty simple. If you guys look at the connector itself, you'll see the retaining pin on the top. You're gonna wanna put that in the top of this connector. Then as you guys can see, this little like trap door in the back that slides down. So make sure the part that depresses, make sure that's faced up. And then, like I said, we will seal this by putting that door down in the back. All right guys, well I really can't play any music due to copyright strikes, but I will just say this system made a heck of a difference. And the other thing is, if you do crank up all of the switches on the amp itself, make sure you buy this switch, because if you guys don't, yikes, like I had it unplugged and it just started really low volume. I was already trying to max out the subwoofer, so make sure you guys use this. I'll say this, these factory speakers sound okay, but as soon as you add a subwoofer to it and it's tied in, there's nothing to do with it, and you kind of crank the subwoofer up a little bit, it makes the system sound that much more better. So if you guys see some people with negative feedback on these things that it doesn't produce enough bass, well, if they don't do those 2 modifications of flipping the switches up as well as adding this controller, you know, I want to say this is the missing key ingredient for making the system really good. If you don't do that, you're just gonna have a not good sounding system with a 10-inch subwoofer that has no way to actually control it. By adding the aftermarket controller as well as turning those gains up, you know, it works a lot better. So I'm pretty happy with this. For the, I think I spent like 600, it was 650 bucks for this. I've got to reroute the wire under the hood because I'm not really happy with the way I ran that. I may take that off the battery and run it behind the battery instead of running it in front of the battery. I'm just gonna kind of zip tie it into place now and we'll call it good. Also, I need to make a decision on this, so I think I'll have a follow-up video with this because this video is already going to be way too long. And also, I will modify that back storage tray to work with the subwoofer. So if you guys want to see those updates, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, I'll drop some links down below, especially for the controller. I did get this on Amazon. I'm not sure if you find the subwoofer on Amazon. I'll include a GM part number for that. Also, don't forget to check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any contributions there go right back to the channel, the projects, the cars, the truck, and all that. So thanks guys, have a great one.